Hey, welcome to the Bristol Small Business Show. This is Kevin Gammy. Today, I've got a really exciting guest. We got Mark Jones from Your Digital Strategies, Your Digital Solutions, actually. Look, Mark is, I've known him for years and years and years. He does think about marketing a little bit differently, and that's why I thought he was awesome to bring on to the show today. Hey, Mark, how are you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Kev. Thanks for having us on again.
That's okay. Now, we were chatting earlier on, and you said, Kevin, I've never been busier.
That's right. We are finding that, look, we don't want to gloat about it. We're very sensitive to the fact that a lot of businesses are struggling, and it is a hard time. I guess we're just simply fortunate that a lot of those businesses need to do things digitally, and we are a digital agency. So, look, we're just grateful to be able to be a lot of help. We are able to help businesses adjust to this period. We're thinking about, I guess the stages we're working through here as being the initial lockout and that quick and knee-jerk shock reaction to that. But we are going to come through that in, say, 3 to 6 months into what we're referring to as the transition, which is pre-vaccine. And businesses are going to need to trade. You know, this COVID-19 issue is, it's a health pandemic, but it's also an economic pandemic, and we need to ensure as many businesses as possible are standing at the end of it and indeed stronger for it.
Absolutely, and as you said, there's 3 phases, and there's the the lockdown phase. There is the transition, and then there will be the recovery. And I guess the transition is really about giving yourself some time and space to create how you're going to come out of it in the recovery. You'll still be doing business, but you may not be as busy as you have been, or because of your different structure to your work. A lot of people weren't working from home before, they're now working from home. So, hey, they were traveling in their cars for half an hour to an hour each way. Yeah. So if at worst case, I'm suggesting everybody use at least that time to be working on their business, if not even more, to position their business to how they want it to look coming out.
That's a great suggestion, and I think that steps like that to keep our energy up, keep our focus, keep optimistic, and certainly stay ambitious. I think it's easy if we become mad consumers of the nightly news and maybe even staying connected to that all through the day. I think that actually affects your positivity, and not to be an ostrich with your head in the sand, but certainly with a view that, we want people to be, if you're the leader of your business, you need to have the plan, and that plan has to put you one foot in front of the other until you're moving towards whatever that future is. For doing that, it'll be better than for doing nothing. We know that. And getting a plan from people who are, and surrounding yourself with people who are optimistic and inputs and ideas that are optimistic is just going to get your head in a good space, I think.
Absolutely. And it really is about, as you said, keeping one foot in front of the other. Now, look, if the shock that you've had means that you need to have a break, use Easter as that break. Take some time off. Don't even think about business. Just shut your computer, switch all the alerts in your phone off. Don't even look at them. Even delete the apps if you have to. You can reconnect later on, so that you can just have some time away and think about, if I was to start, here's the question I keep getting people to ask, I keep asking, is if I was to start my business today, knowing what I do, how would it look different? And then working out what I have to do to make it look different. And that's my transition. Right?
I like that question. I think it's a good question. I think 2 parts of what you've said that have actually resonated well. One is managing your energy. I think at the minute with this remote working, there's a real degree of Groundhog Day and sameness, and there are distractions at home, whether it be pets or children or just happenings around the house that can be a distraction. And secondly, I think not only starting your business now for the conditions we're in now, but in our marketing conversations with our clients, we're talking about talking to your customers with empathy of their situation right now, but also setting your messaging up for where you will be in 3 months' time. So talking now about how you might be doing service delivery. So right now, we're talking with tradespeople about messaging that when your tradesman arrives on site, they will be respectful of the health conditions in the home. They can wear gloves that are fresh for each client. They can wear a mask for every client. They can put booties over their boots if the resident or the business occupant's concerned. And just making sure you're sensitive to the environment. And then, of course, setting yourself up for keeping that work coming in, because more than half of businesses are still trying to trade just as if the world is turning, and it is turning for most businesses, and it's great to see this movement of buying locally and using businesses even while we're in lockdown. I really support that and think that's critically important. Buying takeout a couple of times a week to keep that local restaurant running is so important for that family and keeping our business community alive.
While you're mentioning that, look, if you're going to buy takeout from your local restaurant, call your local restaurant and book it yourself. Don't have 35% of the money go off to Uber Eats and Deliveroo and all of that gang, right? Call them up. They probably have a delivery solution for you so that the money stays within your local economy, right? It's something that I'm absolutely parochial about. I want the money to stay here and within our Brisbane small business community. Use that directory to help find the services that you're after, because there are local accountants and and even restaurants. So there is every single type of business in there. Please, let's be doing more local. Let's support local.
And I think also
after you, one more thing, and then we've got to get on to your presentation, because hey, we're well into it.
I think it's also the we've got to manage our health, right? I mean, that's the number one priority right now. And we're all talking flattening the curve, but we've introduced flatten the curve, but don't flatten your business's revenue at the same time. Do what you can to help your own business. If you're able to stay afloat, you're able to keep all the people that hang off you afloat, and in turn be conscious of that for others. Where you can, supporting those local businesses. It's because it's going to cost us even more again if these businesses are not present on the other side of this lockdown period. Man, these people being put off and these businesses that might have to close down. It's a sad day, and it's a far poorer community for it if they're not present.
Absolutely. And look, we do have, I was talking yesterday with Eric Allgood about how big business could even be more affected than a typical small business, because they move slower. They're not used to having people working from home and a whole host of other reasons. It's going to take them longer to both close down, but then it's going to take them longer to scale back up. It's going to take that transition coming out. It's going to be hard for them. So, we do have the ability because we are agile. But hey, let's talk a little bit about SEO. You've got the 4 keys to SEO. If we can understand that, search engine optimization. So you've got 4 keys to that. If we understand that better, then we can position our sites and our blogs and all that sort of stuff in a better way so that Google likes that stuff more as well.
Absolutely. And I want to, I've got a few slides here I'll run through and hopefully give some shape and context. And these slides will be available for anyone who wants them either after this presentation or, keep them as long as you wish. The context of this that I think a lot of people miss is, we see packages from agencies offering SEO and they tell clients they can chase 20, 30 words, and I think it's absolute folly to think that in a competitive marketplace where each phrase is actually its own marketplace. Every single phrase you want to be ranked for has its own volume of searches, cost per click values of what a click would be worth if you were to buy it in the advertising side of the ledger, and indeed have different competitive densities or competition around them. And I think thinking of each phrase as its own marketplace starts having us look much more critically at which phrases do we think we can win. And if it's a difficult phrase, then we really need to focus more of our guns on winning that particular phrase. And so if we jump into the presentation,
just one second, Mark. As you click there, your voice is jumping in and out for a second. So you might just want to have a second there. What we might do, Mark, is stop the screen share, because I think that's taking too many resources from your internet.
Let me just turn something off. Has that recovered, Kev?
That's much better. Whatever you had there wasn't working for us.
Well, I was going to spruik it, but I won't now. It's a bit of AI that takes out background noise, but let's agree that that's now rubbish. So how we help businesses is on this trust aspect, because my industry is full of 2-minute gurus and Johnny-come-latelys, we like to call them, and we have tons of business experience. So we're actually less about the marketing and more about the business growth, and that's from corporate right the way through to startups. And what I want to talk through now, Kev, just tell me if that audio is still solid as I move through.
It's absolutely great, mate.
I want to walk through a process of making sense of all these digital marketing pieces and where SEO fits. So most businesses, when we first meet them, will have a website. They'll be collecting customer details through forms, and they'll be writing to a database. And in fact, most businesses don't use that database. They actually don't find the time or don't have the wherewithal to turn around and send out a monthly email newsletter. The audiences they get to their website, they're normally getting them through digital advertising, maybe a small spend on Google AdWords, and probably doing nothing at all. Actually, is what a lot of businesses do. The next step for most businesses is then moving into blogs and content marketing and driving their SEO effort. So search engine optimization should inform, using their SEO research, should inform the topics they're pursuing and the keywords that are relevant to the audience that are potentially looking for that information. So it's normally the second protocol. Once we've got that down, then we have content we're producing for our blog posts. We can then reuse that in a simple email marketing platform, and suddenly our database we were collecting is valuable again. So by tying these first 3 things together, we actually have a really strong content marketing platform to what still is the only audience you can control and the only audience you can reach whenever you wish is your email database. You know, we're now seeing that if we look at Google My Business and if we look at the social platforms, each of them are introducing cost structures that say, unless you pay, you can't talk to the same people you've just paid to acquire on Facebook, for example. And so we see, and I certainly see in a lot of small businesses, that the website with focus on...
Can I get you to go back and say that one more time? Because that's a really critical point.
It's essential. When people are working off a minimal budget, or they're really watching their pennies, or you're just starting out, you know, you need every dollar and every minute of your day. All your resources have to be delivering you a maximum return. And the only group, the only audience you actually control is that email database group that you send via an email program. MailChimp is obviously very common, ActiveCampaign and others. Of course, people will counter that. They'll say, oh, yes, but, you know, the open rates are poor, and, you know, but we know that that's the case. But, you know, 20% is an average open rate. But typically it's the same 20%, and they're normally your most engaged, and they're normally your most likely prospects. So it's the rest of people who aren't that rusted on or aren't engaging with you for some reason. So
and if you think about that for a second, okay, so we've got a 20% open rate, but if we were going to do a mailbox drop, or if we're promoting a blog, to an audience, to a cold audience, we're expecting a 1 to 2%. So we're getting 20,000% better, or something like that. So we're getting 20 times the audience, not just the 1%ers. We're all of a sudden getting 20%.
Yeah, it's a really good point. People do forget that quite quickly when they get, running radio ads. If you're running TV, let's just say a basic TV ad, half the audience there, if you're a gender-specific product, which obviously not everything is, but let's say you're after female grocery buyers and you're you're selling packaged ice cream. It doesn't really matter, but your target audience, of course, everyone can potentially buy, but typically we're looking for these standardized generic demographic targets. Straight away, half the audience is irrelevant, or a third of the audience are children. So any ad you spend, they normally talk about the reach you get. And even in outdoor advertising, all these cars drove past, and the average car has 1.6 people in it. Yeah, but you know what? They're never looking at the sign, or even if they are, it's 10% of the time. So every marketing channel actually has quite profound leakage in it. And it's only digital marketing where we can go, well, actually, this is how many people eyeballed your ad. And I only put it in front of people that for some reason the algorithm thought had a chance of being interested, and you only paid when they clicked on it. So whilst that sometimes feels like a lot of money, the fact that it's so focused, if they're not going through and converting, you actually have to look inside your business and your funnel to go, well, actually, what am I doing wrong here? Because I just had 1,000 people look at my stuff, and either they didn't get it, the call to action was rubbish, the offer might be generic or not just weak. You know, it's a typical offer rather than something quite strong. And I think they're the things that businesses that market well are brave around how they try and put their offers together.
I remember you wrote an article a couple of years back, you know, what Tony Mundine and Donald Trump could teach us about marketing. I just love the title because we all go, but these guys are numbnuts. And in some senses, they kind of are. But the reality is they get their message out to the people they want. And they do. Yeah. So,
yeah, you know, and it actually highlights another trap, and we'll get back to SEO in a minute, but SEO is about choosing your message and what market you're going after. And sure, it's the way to get people in the door, but once you get them in the door, what are you going to do with them? And why are they there? And what brought them there? And what offer do you put in front of them to have them make an inquiry or even make a sale? And one thing that I find really powerful about the way polarizing characters like Mundine or Trump, the way they operate, is they're very, very focused on the 10 or 20% of people they absolutely need to love what they're saying, and they don't give a shit about the other 80%. They don't care because they can only service 20%. And any business we work with, and our own included, I couldn't possibly help 100% of business, small business. That most of them aren't our potential customer. They're not ready, or they're not in the right frame of mind, or they aren't. They don't have the right problem set that we're well positioned to fix. Whereas the other 10% who are the right potential people for us to help, they're the people we want to come in. And hopefully, if the things I do right on this call today are appropriate, that should happen. Now, that is true of every business that will want to be marketing effectively.
And that still gives you 850 to 900 clients, which if you got them today, you're going to struggle to serve.
And I'm not here for that. There's no sell. It's very much I hope this helps someone, but absolutely right. That's right. One thing I would say about the social platforms that's often overlooked is even if they are simply a petri dish for you to work out who does engage with my ads, so you can take those learnings forward into how you focus other activities. So you might learn that in trying to sell that box of ice creams, which is actually a really terrible example I'll never use again because it's got me really wrestling with how to use it effectively. But if you take that box of ice creams and you learn that actually my ice cream seem to get a lot of people 50 years and over, well, that information that you go back and review your sponsorships, review other partnerships, review your distribution channels, and start optimizing other things in your business based on what you've learned. So, you know, some people look at the social channels as a singular source of customer or prospect flow. Actually, they're a great source of insights that inform what you do elsewhere and what language you adopt and how you take your brand and your product forward. And customer reviews are terribly important, especially for local SEO. So that's the broad picture. And what we can see here is SEO, both in research and where you're playing, really is step 2. So it's a second step on this journey. The reason I felt it was topical is it also normally takes 3 to 4 months to start to kick in and have a positive feedback loop. And that's not always true. Some less competitive categories and more focused keywords can move a little faster, and indeed some can move a lot slower. But on average, a 3 to 4 month window is about right. And I felt that this COVID period during this lockdown is an excellent time for some of your community to start getting their content marketing tight and to start really getting that message right and start pushing that through. And then by the time we're coming into that transition period and coming, the easing of the lockdown, they might see the benefit of that SEO starting to pay back.
Absolutely.
And SEO is not fluffy. We get people talking to us about how they've tried it, they've done it, it didn't work, blah, blah, blah. Look, it always does something. If you're taking action at this, it should move the needle somewhere. The problem we've got is that might not lead to the phone ringing off the hook in the same way that a Google ad will do or a Facebook ad will do. So this is a slower burn, but it builds a base and a platform off which you will get steady, ongoing inquiry. And a small story about that, we have a landscaping client. He started with us. We ran ads for him, a pretty uncompetitive category in the geography he served. And so he got busy and he said, hey, can you turn the ads off, which we did. And we'd done SEO as part of his package. He then rang us the next month and said, guys, I really need you to turn those ads off because I'm working so hard and I've got my guy working and we're kind of at our limit. Can you stop the ads? We didn't have any ads. It was the SEO still working for him, sending people to his website and still sending him inquiries. And so that is the measurable outcome of SEO, and it's worth at least as much of what it costs to replace that traffic. If you didn't have SEO, well, now you're stuck with ads. And we know that ads have generally at least a 50% bounce rate when they hit a landing page, even a home page. Now, if the cost per click is $3 up to $20, depending on what you do, you have to double that price for each of those sessions to hope to get a conversion. And the average conversion on a landing page to an inquiry is 4%. So if you run those sort of metrics through, you'll find that getting a person to make an inquiry on most businesses is extremely valuable. If you can do that on a steady trickle feed from SEO work you've done prior, excellent value for your business. It's not free, it takes time, but it is worth the value it takes to get it elsewhere. And what we're seeing, I'm going to skip this page, there's a little detail, but in the pack it'll make sense. But what we are seeing is that the first page of Google now, with the ads being more prominent and the map coming in, oh, thanks, Kev. With the map coming in the middle, we are seeing SEO as the bottom third of the page, and that's a pretty long page, right? So high SEO rankings matter more than ever, where 31% of the traffic is going to the first position, 24% goes to the second position. So we are talking over half the available search traffic for SEO, for organic search traffic, going to the first two spots, and more than 90% on the first page. So when people say you've got to be on page one, they're right. One thing I would highlight is the map area does give us an opportunity for local SEO, and we are seeing only half of businesses roughly have verified their Google My Business listing. If that's a byproduct of today's presentation, please go and verify your Google My Business listing. And when you do content on your website for SEO, be sure to post a version of that to your Google My Business page. It's invaluable. That will get you in that what's called the 3-pack far more regularly.
Absolutely. So what percentage were you saying have verified their Google My Business?
Look, the last number I read was 45%. That was a few months ago, so I just rounded that back to half.
I would actually suggest it's much lower in small business, but that's just people I talk to, a lot of them haven't.
Mate, it's so critical, and this is a free kick. When things in Google are less competitive and still new, even though this has been around for a couple of years, right? It's still new to a lot of businesses. We just simply know from experience, the sooner you're in and the sooner you set it up, the sooner you're ahead of the pack. If you simply stay there, other people, just because they start in a year's time, they can't knock you off your pillar if you keep doing the work to stay relevant and stay current. So that's something we've seen in SEO. Businesses who have done the work to get to the front of the pack and keep doing the work, stay there. What we do see is most businesses don't keep doing the work, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment, where we've come through the ranks quickly for a keyword we were after. Now, mate, I want to just touch on the 4 steps of SEO and highlight the fact that for most businesses, they actually just don't do all 4 steps. We see most people do focus on keywords. They will do some research and look at their competitive set and their customers, and that's great. They will then sometimes do a little bit of structuring the website, but most people don't do much here. They don't actually name sections on their site or use H1 tags or some of the technical stuff, which can be boring, I know, but it's imperative to get right. You do have to structure your website to appeal optimally for the target 3 to 5 terms you really want to win in. Most people do step 3 quite well. They'll pump out article after article after article, focusing on the keyword, and they'll use Yoast, for example, in WordPress. They'll actually do step 3 quite well, telling their story. But if step 2 is not done properly, the effectiveness of that is vastly reduced. And then we get to the 4th step, which no one does, which is targeted backlinking, and page rank, which is the older phrase for how Google sort of assessed relevancy of websites for a topic. It was all around who links back to you. And that really is the heartbeat of SEO. And it tells Google that a human out there linked to this content for this topic, therefore it must be relevant. Because, Google is still a robot.
And that's a really cool space where our directory can help out a lot in that targeted backlinking, because if you're writing blogs and then linking that back to your website, which is what we encourage everyone to do, then you're getting an authority site linking back to you, so it can actually boost your own listing as well.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right, Kevin. And it's actually reminds me I haven't done enough with the directory myself in that. So I'm going to be doing that this week. I'll get that fixed, because finding high domain authority, high value communities that have what's called a high domain authority, which is really a ranking on, is this abc.net.au or is it qut.gov.au, or is it, if it's a government and education or a business community linking back on a business topic, that has really high relevance. And as you assign that link, you're assigning rank. And the value of that rank is dictated on the, the value of the site sending that traffic. So even if nobody ever took that link, it still gives you value from the backlink. So this is...
And I've got to say, we are outranking the council for being an authority on small business if you look up Brisbane small business.
Absolutely. So for that example, anyone doing work with you needs to use the keywords, and they can find this out quite easily using a tool by Neil Patel called Ubersuggest. They can jump in there, they can put your domain in, and they can see what keywords you rank for. Those keywords you rank for are the keywords they should try and use in their anchor link to assign that rank across to their site. And on their end, they should have a page that captures and tries to rank for that same phrase, if that makes sense. So I can run a webinar on this or do a workshop on this for people who are keenly interested on how it works. Most of this people can do themselves, but of course, busy business owners always say they will and they never do. And it's the same thing as, I'm going to start an email newsletter. I'd love to see how many newsletters are in MailChimp that had only ever two editions go out, because it's a lot of work, and I guess they just fall off the wagon as they get along. Now,
you just gave me another job to do there, Mark. Thanks.
That's right. Now, I want to give an example, and maybe we should jump out of this zoomed-in view. It might be a more fitting setting. But this competitive example, this is our business, and back in October, November, we were ranked outside 80, so we were 82 for Web Design Brisbane. We started the work that we do using those 4 steps, and we are now in the top 10. So we're ranking between 8 and 7, depending on what's going on around us. And that is in the matter of 4 months or so we got into that position, and we've held that since, up and down a little bit. Now, we haven't stopped. We've had to keep the energy up around that we had at the start. And why we've gone forward in the pack, I guess, is focus, and the fact that everyone else is only doing a mediocre level for that phrase, and we're putting a concerted, focused effort on. Now, this is the second best phrase that we could go for in our category. We chose this phrase over the most important one because the most important one was even more competitive, and we wanted to get a result for a service where we are offering at our core. And we now get an inquiry, roughly an inquiry a day, and that's out of SEO. So a lot of people tell me it doesn't work, and I call bullshit, because it does work. It doesn't work the way a lot of people do it. And I think a lot of people expect too much for too little work on too many phrases.
Yeah, and that's the real key. Pick the right phrase that you want to rank for, and rank for that phrase. Make sure it's a quality phrase.
Yeah, quality phrase. One that also aligns with what you think a prospect who needs your services will actually lead to making an inquiry. So it can't be too sort of obtuse or off to the side. It's got to be front and center and with good search volume. And also for us, we either do this or we go and spend money on ads. And what we see in the ad side of the marketplace is where, in an ad, you control what you say far more than you probably do in SEO. In SEO, you still got to kind of really be offering advice and content. Whereas in ads, you get a bit more puffery in the ads, and we see a bit more bait and switch in the ads. So we think the SEO works well. I've included a slide for people to compare content marketing inclusive of SEO and advertising to help people just to understand the difference a little more. And just in the interest of time, what we want people to do is position themselves as the go-to expert for a couple of topics and really drill in on those topics. And having pillar content, it's called pillar content. HubSpot's got a great article on this. Pillar content around which you keep adding layers of meaning and you keep building the anchor around that topic. And what we see that's interesting here is when you start building your site content around the content you want to be found for, your whole structure changes. And your website structure changes to the services and products you offer that help people, away from about us, what we do, our services. That's actually what you sell. It's actually not what people buy. And when you restructure it in that way, you actually find websites just from doing that can move to a far more converting, far more engaging property. So following these steps to make yourself an expert can be really powerful. And we use a model in this, which is a facts model. We made this up because our industry is full of myth and shame and throwing the bones, and yet digital should be really all about data. And so start everything with focus. Who are you after? How many of them are there? What are they spending? Are they the customers you want? Of that group you're after, what percentage know you even exist? If you don't have awareness, you do not have a ticket to the game. And then of those people who are coming in, and this is the next step, mostly after we start SEO or advertising, Mark, we're getting a lot of people looking at our page, no one's buying. Okay, well, how do we get them to convert? And this isn't tricking people. This is making sure we're offering good value at the price, meeting the need for the customer. And normally, if we're not getting people to buy, there's often a problem in the product market fit and the value proposition that has to be addressed. And then once we've got our first few sales, we then get to traction. How do we repeat that? How do we get that customer's friends in? How do we sell more often, sell bigger baskets, sell a basket of higher profit, more profitable goods? And then the real sleeper in digital is scaling. A lot of people talk about the front end for digital, just the marketing, getting the customers in. Well, most of the digital business really is around scaling and getting process efficiencies and economies in your business that help you take on more customers without needing to put on a multitude of people, therefore, damaging your profit margin. So being able to be more efficient using digital tools is equally as important.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're really awesome points. And I think that, so the homework that you've given me is potentially we could run a workshop on this after Easter. We'll give you a week or so to put that full workshop together, and we'll have a chat, and then we'll run it as a BSB workshop. So if people are interested, so if you've been watching this and you're interested, definitely put the information below. We don't want to run a workshop for 2 people because that's not a good use of anyone's time. But we want to make sure that this is something that I believe people are really interested in, and that could help them, have their site and their content that they're putting everywhere that little bit more focused about who they're trying to get, so that they are attracting the right audience.
And Kevin, one last thing I'd add is we've put together a package for businesses who we think SEO should work well for, so they can apply through our website, where we have COVID-19 support on our navigation. We've got a whole range of tools there. We've got the 10 things to do to your website to improve it during this period. But what we have done is for businesses, we're inviting, at the moment we're doing for up to 10. We've got half of those already, but look, if we get more, we get more. But we'd like to do it, some SEO packages for 3 months at below cost. So normally it's $6.90 a month, and we're doing those for $199 a month. And I know that sounds like a rug salesman, but it was something we wanted to do to help at least 10 businesses through this difficult period to come out stronger on the other side. And I'm very happy, of course, to extend that to your group. But it is an application. We won't do that for businesses where we have a sense that it probably won't work or it won't give them the result that they're expecting. So we do sort of reserve the right to have a discussion with the business and make sure it is the right fit. But where it is, very happy to offer that to the Brisbane Small Business Group.
Fantastic. Look, we have gone so far over time, it's not funny. This is meant to be a 10-minute workshop. We're at the 35-minute mark. We're going to let everyone go. Please, if you've got questions, put them in the feed down below here. Mark will be responding. He'll be following the feed. I know that he's very, very busy, but he'll jump in, once or twice a day just to have a quick look and answer everybody that's there. He promises to do that. We're going to get the slides and we'll put them on the documents that we've got, the files for the group, as well as Mark is going to write a little blog that's going to talk about this more thoroughly. That'll come up the week after Easter. I'm not going to put him under pressure to do that in 3.5 minutes. He's already told me that that's far too unrealistic. But I do want to put a bit of pressure back on you to start putting some content into that directory, share it into the group. Mark, thanks once again. Absolutely amazing and very, very informative. I really do. I love the chats that we get to have and hearing, how you think differently about marketing, how you can simplify a whole lot of stuff and just speaking English rather than in advertising talk and marketing speak, which is fantastic. So thanks very much for your time. Really do appreciate it. And thanks everyone who's come along and had a look today.
Good on you. Look forward to helping anyone who needs a hand. Thanks, Kev. See ya.
See you later.
Bye.